A lot of people have asked me what I looked like when I had hair. Well, in this episode, I thought I'd show you. That's what I look like. And today, I'm going to do some baking. Look at that. That is a solid loaf of bread. Yep. We're going to be baking some bread today with heritage wheats that I bought only the other day. Now this I've left, I don't know, it's just under a week old, about 5 days, and yeah, it's rock solid. That's because it doesn't have any preservatives in. It also doesn't have any of all this horrible additives and extra vitamins and various things that the commercially Chorley wood processed bread shoves in. This is natural bread. The only thing is you have to eat it relatively quickly because it will go off and it will in time start to have mould. But it's natural and that's the way I like it. Also, it is so hard. You cannot now don't look too much at this one because this one did actually flop down and was a bit of a failure anyway. This was made with spelt. We're going to look at something a little bit more heritagey like Emmer bread. Well, there are 3 main ingredients that we need for bread if we're making it at home. Flour, salt and yeast. Also, we're going to add a little bit of sugar just to help the yeast along a bit to speed it up. So we're only going to do 4 ingredients, but you really only need 3, but sugar can help. As well as that, we need a mixing bowl, a measuring jug, and a wooden spoon. You could have a sieve, but I've not seen a recipe that says you've got to sieve the flour. Maybe you do. I'm not going to bother. Now, there's lots of different recipes for bread that you can do, all sorts of different things like flatbread, sourdough bread, fruit bread, nut bread, nuts that make bread. Oh no, that's what I'm doing today. But I'm just going to do a very basic loaf. Now, I've got this rather remarkable book called Bread Matters here, and it says the best bread is the bread that you prove over 12 hours. And proving is where you let it stand, basically, as far as I can understand. Anyway, I'm not going to bother with that. I'm going to make a much quicker and simpler loaf because I haven't got a lot of time and you don't have 12 hours to wait. So, the first thing I've got to do is mix up all the ingredients, and then once it's standing, I need to go and light the essie. But we'll get onto that in a minute. Because the other thing I forgot to mention is you need a nice weighing scales to measure everything out with. This is one of those clever digital things. But if anyone's got one of those old-fashioned weights and measures thing that balances like this and you fancy getting shot of it, you know, with the old pounds and ounces and things, have a word with me. I might be in the market to buy one. Anyway, so now the first thing I need to do in order to get my bread ready is to prepare the yeast, and I've got some of this active dry yeast. Now some recipes say you can just sprinkle this in the appropriate amount, just a few grams of it, but in my book he suggests shoving it in a bit of warm water to get the yeast activated with the sugar. So I've got my measuring jug. I've weighed out about 11 grams of yeast, which I'm just sprinkling in there. Most of it went in there, and with some warm water, 100 grams of warm water, I'm going to plonk that in here and whisk it up, or mix it as much as I can, just to get the yeast running. Now I know there'll be tons of people who make bread all the time who'll be going, oh my god, this isn't the way you do it. To that, in order to get the yeast working, I'm going to add a flat spoon, that's probably a bit much, of sugar. and mix that in. And I'm going to leave this for approximately 10 to 20 minutes, by which time I should be ready with the flour. So that's going to take a little bit of time. So very carefully, I'm going to plonk that over there. Don't need that. We'll just throw that out of the way. Don't need that for the moment. But what we do need is our mixing bowl. Turn on the thingamajig. Now the great thing about these electronic things is I want to zero up on the mixing bowl so that anything that goes in the mixing bowl is the correct thing. And there we go. Sometimes it has a bit of a hissy fit, and it wasn't. So I want 500 grams of this Emmer flour, ancient grain. Never tried this before. This is the whole grain. So I'm going to, oh, it's a lovely colour. I'm going to sprinkle that in. So there we are, we're nearly there. Got to be just a bit careful. It's a lovely light coloured brown because it's obviously the whole grain. So this is half a bag I'm putting in, if I've got this right, because 500 grams is half a thing. So nearly there. There we go. But marvellous. So there should, in theory, be 500 grams back in there, and I can prove that by removing the bowl, zeroing this, and putting the bag on it. And actually it says 548, so there we go. So that might be the bag that's the extra. It's 10 minutes later and the yeast is growing, it's alive, it's taking over, it's going to eat us up and gobble us and kill us and absorb us if we don't do something with it. So we have to act relatively quickly. So I've got my 500 grams of the lovely Emmer wheat in there, and in this glass I have dissolved the salt, which is I can't remember now, it's about a spoonful. I cut my hand and I get an approximate measure and shove it in, but you need to look them up. So I'm going to add the 100 grams of water and the yeast as it is into there with this mixture, which basically it's got a bit of foam on the top. I want the foam, I want all of that froth. It's frothy, man. We want all of that, but that was only 100 grams, so I want another 200, because in total I want about 300 grams of warm water, not boiling water, not tepid, but just warm. It's very difficult to say what that is. And all the time, I'm going to mix that in. Now, the thing about what I've been reading and what I have learnt is you want the dough wetter than you think. You don't want it sloppy, but you want it sloppy-ish and not unsloppy. Now, this is quite an interest, like sand in here. So I'm going to mix this round until it's almost a lump. But before that, I need to add my salt, because the salt is another important ingredient. I forget what it does, but somebody somewhere will know. All I know is that's what you do. And you mix it round like this until it gets a bit clumpy, and then you get your hands into it and start kneading. And you might just add a tad more water if it's too gloopy. Look at that. I think I might just add a tiny bit more water to it, and then I'm going to put my hands in. Make sure your hands are clean, of course. Mine are. So there's lots of ways of kneading, and according to the book it doesn't overly matter. People do it in all sorts of different fashions. As long as you give it a good 15-minute workout of pulling, folding, stretching, punching, bashing, you know, don't wear it on your face or sit on it. And I've got to do this for 15 minutes quite vigorously, because you're getting all of that yeast everywhere and you're mixing it all up. Now, I'm sure there are plenty of bread makers who will have their own opinions, so put them in the comments and I can ignore it. So I'm going to be doing this for 15 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Some people put it on a board and work it out there. But Andrew Whitley, whose book Bread Matters, says it doesn't. He's an artisan bread maker of some 30 years. He says it doesn't make any difference. So I'm going by what he says because he's got a book out. So there we go. Keep this going. I'll see you when I've done it. So some 15 minutes of working this dough has gone on. And I can tell you, my head is very itchy. I can't take the wig off. I can't scratch my hair. How do people get away with hair? Oh, I can't wait to get this blooming thing off. But also, I can't wait to clean my hands. So now, I'm cutting out one process in the bread making to make this bread quicker for me. Some people recommend this. Some people say, like Andrew Whitley in his Bread Matters book, you should do it for 12 hours. And on another occasion, I will. But we don't have 12 hours. So I've finished with my bowl. And I'll try not to drop it. So what I'm going to do is I am going to put the bread straight into the tin. I'm going to use some baking paper, which I always use, and it doesn't stick to that. Now, Andrew Whitley says the dough should be wetter than you might expect. So it's still a bit cloy, difficult to shape, but don't worry, the tin is going to do the shaping for me. Because you need it moist so that it will raise, because we're not doing it the Chorley wood way, in which they've got special stuff in it to help it raise up and become like commercial bread, all very spongy with nothing in it. So I'm going to try and shape it in the tin like this. It's not the easiest of things. Bend that down. So once it's in here, I'm going to leave it for about 2 hours, and in the meantime I will get the essie going, because it'll take 2 hours for the essie to get up to temperature anyway. Other people have gas ovens, assuming you can still get gas if Russia hasn't turned it off. So I may be the only one making bread at the moment. So there it is, like that, all ready. I'm going to leave that now for 2 hours to do its thing. I'm going to wash the remainder of my hands off. We have reached a very critical moment now. It's been 2 hours, just a little over. Now I could, and I'm tempted to give it a little longer, but it does seem to be starting to sort of hang over the side of the tin. So we don't want it to do that, because that will make it rather an ugly loaf. So I'm hoping that in the oven it might just puff a little bit, but probably not much more. The essie is lit, roaring fire in there, looking absolutely lovely, and the temperature is, on my gauge here, very, very hot. So that's perfect for my bread. It will probably go in for about 20 minutes. I'll whip it out. I might turn it upside down out of the tin and then put it back in. Now what I have to do is very carefully lift this in and put it in the oven, because if I do it a bit cack-handed and knock it, it's likely to knock some of the gas that's holding it up, and it can have the top can flatten, and that's happened before. So I'm going to be very circumspect as I lift up my loaf. So I'm going to open up the oven door first of all. A lot of heat coming out there. Very gingerly lift up the loaf, and just as gingerly slide it into the middle of the oven and shut the door. Well, now it's just a bit of a waiting game, so we'll give it about 20 minutes and then we'll see if we've made a fantastic loaf. In the meantime, time for a cup of tea. Right. Oh, look at that. Very carefully. There we are. Now I'm going to lift it very, ouch, it's hot. It does get very hot. but I'm actually going to turn it around and place it on there. What I really need is a little special grill. In fact, there's a grill in there I could use, but for the moment, I'm just going to balance it on here and let it cool down, and then I can open it up and have a look. But yes, it is hot, but yeah, you could see the shape has gotten dribbly over there. Could have perhaps done with a bigger tin, maybe. But there it is. That's my loaf, and I'm very happy at the moment. We'll soon see what it tastes like. Well, there it is, and I can tell you, it looks absolutely perfect. Good gracious. Oh, lovely, slightly warm because I've let it cool quite a bit. Beautiful crust. It may look like a bit of a naff loaf on the top there. It's cooked all the way through. It's not stodgy on the inside, but it's just slightly moist like you would expect. And let's put a bit of butter on one side. I'm going to put a bit of butter over here so I can try it like that. There you go, look, a bit of butter one side and not. Now, I've never had Emmer wheat flour bread before, so I'm going to just give this a little try here. Oh, this is really, really nice. It's like real bread. Better than this solid stuff. This is this is lovely. Why did they ever stop making this kind of bread? Let's try the other side. That is marvellous. That is... No, honestly, I'm not just saying that because I've made it, but you've watched me make it. I am very happy with that. Beautiful taste. Lovely texture. It's just wonderful. Oh, let's get rid of that, shall we? You probably forgot what I look like. What do you mean you prefer me with hair? No need to be like that. Well, I'm going to enjoy the rest of this loaf. Well, I mean the rest of this slice. This is beautiful. Have a go. Heritage wheat flour, whole grain, absolutely easy. You'll be so much healthier by eating homemade bread than the commercial stuff. You really will. And pound per pound, it's cheaper. Cheers, everyone. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to follow. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe. Don't talk with your mouth full. And I'll see you on the next one. Ta-ta.